For those that have tuned in, my name is Kelly O'Brien, and I lead both the Chicago Central Area Committee and the Alliance for Regional Development. If you're not familiar with either group, let me share with you that the Alliance for Regional Development is a neutral platform focused on the Milwaukee, Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana corridor. And the organization was created as a result of a groundbreaking study from the world's leading think tank on economic development, the OECD. And they talked about how critical our mega region is. And the mega region is the third largest contributor to the national GDP. And yet for decades, we have not grown at the average of the national GDP. So there's real opportunity. And with opportunity, the challenges that opportunity brings is regional economic development, both within the sub-regions as well as the region, the mega region at large. So today is a really important conversation, and it's really exciting to be able to introduce Matt Wells. And Matt has agreed, because I have been contacted by many of you advertising him as an opera singer. We will have him share a few notes before this webinar is over. I also like you to know that we encourage you to ask questions. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll do my best to relay the questions to Matt. And I also want to say that I want to acknowledge Leah Conradi and the great work that she did with One Region. She was a great partner, and I know that traditionally it's right around this time of year, early October, that a huge ballroom is filled to capacity with stakeholders in Northwest Indiana. So Matt, I know you have big shoes to fill, but given your credentials, there's no doubt that you're up for the job. So with that, Matt Wells was recently appointed interim CEO of One Region and the Northwest Indiana Regional Opportunities Council, and that just happened in August, so last month. And just as I lead two organizations and feel like I have two full-time jobs, Matt, welcome to this world, because in addition to the hat that he's wearing with One Region and with the council, he also serves as the Director of External Engagement and Partnerships at Purdue University Northwest, another fantastic stakeholder and supporter of the work of the Alliance for Regional Development. So Matt serves as the university's primary business development executive and liaison to the public and private sectors. Matt has built up a diverse portfolio over the past 10 years in a wide range of sectors critical to regional economic development. And again, it is a long list of sectors, but they include agriculture, banking, healthcare, hospitality and tourism, K through 12 education, public and not-for-profit administration, small business consulting, workforce development, and the list just goes on. In fact, when it comes to banking, his work with the Indiana Bankers Association and a consortium of regional and community banks led to the first academic degree program in banking in the state of Indiana. And it was featured in Inside Indiana Business and the Journal of American Bankers Association. I would also say that Matt rightly was recognized in the Northwest Indiana Times 20 under 40 in business in 2018. So Matt, thank you so much for taking on this yeoman's task, and welcome to our webinar today.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It is a pleasure to join you and the folks on the call, the Zoom here today. Really excited to have a chance to share a little bit about what's going on with One Region and some of our collective insights and vision for some of the opportunities that are on the horizon in this highly unusual time we're living in. So
Excellent.
Wanted to thank you again for the opportunity here.
Well, of course. So, Matt, as I mentioned, we have stakeholders from the tri-state region. So for those that are not familiar with One Region, help our audience know, what is One Region? What does it do?
Absolutely. So So One Region is a nonprofit organization that is essentially dedicated to two pillars: increasing population in Northwest Indiana and median household income. We are sort of not a conventional economic development organization. We're not really in the business of necessarily looking for outside direct investment to create specific, net new jobs. What we're really looking at is the opportunity to organize civic action around improvements in quality of place, which we hope to be a foundation and precursor for more formal kind of conventional economic development. And so we work in partnership with a lot of different stakeholders here in Northwest Indiana, specifically the private sector. The Northwest Indiana Regional Opportunities Council is comprised of about close to 36 CEOs of some of the largest private sector employers in Northwest Indiana. And also the higher education institutions that we have here. Of course, my other hat here at Purdue Northwest, where I'm sitting right now. The universities and the municipalities also play a significant role in shaping that dialogue. And so we have sort of those three anchor groups, academe, the private sector, and the public sector, really trying to work in tandem to create opportunities to improve the placemaking aspects, the quality of life amenities that are increasingly critical to attracting the kind of knowledge workers that we want to help us drive the Northwest Indiana economy into the 21st century and beyond. So that's a little bit of a high-level overview of the mission and what we're trying to do.
Perfect. I think that really helps set the stage. I understand that you have some slides that you would like to share with the audience today.
I do. I have what I hope will be an interesting presentation today. Not too much text today. I really, as I was preparing for the session this afternoon, really wanted to make sure that the conversation today is maybe a little bit different. We've been all on so many webinars and Zoom calls that have been really focused on a lot of things that are related to the pandemic and the kind of near-term operational implications, let's say, of the fallout from the pandemic. And so what I wanted to do today was maybe have just a slightly different tone and try to paint what I believe to be a very optimistic and very feasible vision for where the regional economy here is headed and the implications that has for the greater Chicago MSA. So I've got my deck queued up here, and it looks like I've got screen sharing access. So I will go ahead and give me just a sec here, Kelly. Present. Share.
Well, Matt, it pulls up his slides just as a reminder to the audience. Each year, the Alliance hosts a summit on regional competitiveness at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Because of our unusual restrictions with COVID, it will be a virtual conference, and please watch your emails for details on that. So Matt, it looks like you've got your slides up.
I'm ready to roll.
Excellent.
All right. Well, so the topic today is an idea that's been rolling around, I know, in my head and a lot of folks' heads, and not just in recent months, but an idea that you'll see has been developing for several years at this point. This notion of a Midwest Renaissance that as its end goal has the transformation of the Rust Belt into the Tech Belt. Which has gotten coverage in other metros, which we'll talk about here briefly. But this is something that I think has become increasingly important, particularly because of what's been happening with COVID and the economic fallout. And the how I want to tee this up is to tell you all a little bit about my kind of cockamamie unusual zigzagging path that's taken me from the world of opera and classical singing to the work that I'm doing now. and I hope that the connection will make sense once I get a little further in. So that's me, a little more than 10 years ago, when I was still completing my first round of graduate study in music at the Jacobs School of Music down in Bloomington and IU. Suffice it to say that I had no idea at the age of 21, 22, what I would be doing at this stage of my life, why I would be doing it, and where I would be doing it. And I started my adult life having spent years and years and years training to be a classical musician. From probably the time that I was a sophomore in high school, I had a lot of encouragement, a lot of teachers and directors and coaches that were very supportive of my pursuit in that domain, and was very fortunate to get a great education in music at IU, and my plan A was to spend some time trying to make a living singing in the classical music circuit, which is increasingly kind of a bit of a traveling troubadour, kind of not exactly a predictable existence. And we've seen certainly the ways in which arts and culture have been impacted very acutely in recent months. But and my plan B was, okay, well, once that period comes to an end, to perhaps look for a tenure track position at a university somewhere and live a nice quiet existence teaching music. And around when let's say I was probably 23, 24 years old, that was during the last recession, and the world was kind of in flux for other reasons. But I realized that the path that I had been on and what I had been preparing for, and the history that had been up to that point, all of a sudden was not where I saw myself headed in the future. And fortunately, I had been working as a graduate assistant in higher ed administration and career services, and took a chance on moving to Valparaiso here in Northwest Indiana, simply because I got a job offer in the middle of a recession. And I felt that my wife and I didn't have any ties to the area, family, friends. We're both native Hoosiers, but all we knew about Northwest Indiana at the time was it was that place you drove past on the way to Chicago that has all the smokestacks and and very little else did I know about this region that we are now so proud to call home. So when we moved, we didn't know how long we were going to be here. We rolled the dice and took a chance. And so I spent some time working at Valparaiso University in career services, and over the ensuing years there, my work shifted a little bit more into kind of external engagement, working on projects and initiatives that were focused on how the university channeled its resources and influence to help stem the brain drain out of Northwest Indiana, and to really be a force for regional economic development. And then the river of life took me over to Purdue Northwest, which at the time was going through unification, and putting together two smaller regional campuses into one much larger consolidated regional university, which we are now, PNW, to do some things with the College of Business focused on career placement. And so, through those last 10 years, what started as somewhat of a shot in the dark, ended up helping my family and I find a place that really embraced us and welcomed us, when we didn't have an existing community here, and relocated for work reasons. And we've put roots down here, and my wife has a small business in Valparaiso. Our son is 7 and started second grade this year, and what it what it really dawned on me, over the last few years, especially as I've gotten more deeply involved in the region and specifically in areas that contribute to the economic growth and development of Northwest Indiana. I think I can probably speak for a lot of us in saying that, we want this to be the best possible place to live, work, and play so that our kids and their kids and future generations have the kinds of opportunities in life that we all want for them.
Absolutely.
It's human nature. You want the best, for your kids and generations to come. And I think.
Do you so can you share with us your vision for your leadership of One Region?
Absolutely. So we've gone through the who here a little bit. Accidental higher ed executive, accidental regional development leader, proud Northwest Indiana adoptee and evangelist. Pivoting a little bit to talking about the future. I liked this quote a lot when I was putting together the deck, that it's widely accepted that well-designed, well-managed places deliver economic, social, and environmental benefits, and that placemaking goes far beyond good quality pavements or street furniture. This is something that I think should be on the forefront of the minds of anyone who's involved in regional development efforts. The fact that the vast majority of college graduates, particularly in the late millennial and early Gen Z generations, are picking a place first and other things afterwards. And they're looking for places that have the kind of amenities and the kind of activities that support the style of living that they see for themselves. So the work that I think we're doing here around placemaking is something that has become even more important. There's been accelerant thrown on the fire, so to say, as the remote work revolution has dramatically accelerated in the wake of COVID. Folks are more mobile than they've ever been before and can do their work from just about anywhere that has a solid internet connection. And so that makes it so much more important, and it's incumbent on those of us that are trying to move the needle in these domains, that we're making investments in the kinds of amenities that'll attract these very mobile, very untethered workers of the future here. So some of you have probably seen headlines like this over the years. Places like Pittsburgh, Jersey City, places that One Region has hosted engagement tours for our regional leaders to see models that have worked very well in recent years in converting formerly heavy industry areas in decline into thriving tech entrepreneurship ecosystems. And that begs the question of why here and why now? And this is a moment in history, I believe, where the amount of attention that's being paid to what the 21st century economy is going to look like for the next 50 years is gaining a tremendous amount of steam, really at the highest levels of public discourse. And it's, to some extent, it's party agnostic. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of momentum, really on both sides of the political aisle to try to figure out how do we revitalize and re-engage communities in places like Northwest Indiana, formerly places like Pittsburgh, Jersey City, that have been built around heavy industry, that have been built around 20th century models, and move them into the 21st century. And I've been spending a fair amount of time in DC over the last month and a half, which has been interesting to say the least. It's a very unusual time to be traveling, but it's been very worthwhile. And what I wanted to share with the group today is the opportunity that is on the horizon. To be a bit of a Paul Revere saying the British are coming, I guess, that there is a growing coalition of support that is bipartisan, it's bicameral, to make substantial federal investment in corridors of the upper Midwest, like ours, to really catalyze a significant acceleration in economic development through tech transfer and commercialization. Which most of the folks obviously that are in this group today, I'm preaching to a choir, but there is a downstream effect of what's happened, particularly since 2018 with the passage of the qualified opportunity zones legislation, to create incentives and policy levers that make it more conducive for developers to go into areas that are economically distressed, that are diverse in a number of different areas, and mobilize human capital, particularly in BIPOC communities that have been largely left behind in previous economic expansions. We know that the geopolitical factors that have been swirling in recent years introduce a lot of volatility into previously bull markets in other parts of the world.
So Matt, I wonder if you mentioned that you've been spending a lot of time in DC. Can you share with us, have you been working with the White House or with the Indiana congressional delegation? I mean,
yes and yes. Yeah. So, the Indiana congressional delegation of our two wonderful senators, Young and Braun, who have been working very hard, I know, to help tee up and develop legislation that presents an opportunity for reinvestment in communities like Hammond, like Gary, like East Chicago, through investment in advanced and additive manufacturing, in research and development facilities that hopefully, depending on how those legislative appropriations continue to unfold, may provide opportunities to basically scale up efforts that are already happening.
So then Matt, for the people that are watching, obviously this is very exciting for the mega region as a whole, but for the participants, whether they're economic development professionals or workforce board leaders or others in higher ed, what specific roles might they be able to play with one region moving forward?
That's a great question, Kelly. And I think probably the most near-term action item for us through one region is essentially we are working to build the Magnificent Seven, the Justice League, the group of public, private sector, and academic leaders through the Regional Opportunities Council. And our goal eventually is to have 100 members around that table. Right now we have about 34, 35, and Leah did a phenomenal job in getting that Regional Opportunities Council up and running, and it's really starting to snowball. And so kind of the near-term invitation is to reach out and to join us as part of that forum, so that we have kind of the appropriate sort of multi-stakeholder cross-industry representation to be ready to mobilize around legislation, around private sector investment opportunities. We have a channel of communication developing with SoftBank right now surrounding opportunities for micro lending for minority entrepreneurship. So there are a lot of really great things in the hopper, and we'd like to invite more folks to the table, particularly here in Northwest Indiana. But we have had some joiners to the Regional Opportunities Council from as far as Southwest Michigan and into Chicago proper. So we are building the coalition, and we're excited to welcome more folks into the fold. So
well, and I want to make sure that we invite the audience to use the Q&A button. I know
yes.
We're down to 5 minutes left. And
I know we're cutting it close.
Our audience has a chance to get their questions answered.
Yes.
But I see there's another slide. So what's this all about?
So this is the kind of a visual I wanted to leave you with. So this is just 3 years ago, the site of what was the former State Line power generation plant, which at one point in time was the most heavily polluting coal plant on planet Earth. And this is what's coming
Ew.
in
Wow.
early next year. The very first cloud data center built on the Lake Michigan shoreline here in Indiana. And the vision that I want to leave the group with today is that as you imagine flying eastward, say out of Midway, and you're looking down at the Northwest Indiana shoreline and you see kind of the engines of the 20th century economy.
Mm-hmm.
The next time that you are on that overflight, you'll see this data center as the first stop, just this side of the state line. And I want you to imagine what that coastline could look like with data centers and hospitality and tourism amenities reshaping that coastline and returning it to more 20th century, environmentally friendly, future-focused uses.
You know, Matt, just very quickly, can you go back to the last slide and then switch back to this just so that's kind of 19th century, right?
That's
Or
right.
20th century, and now 21st century. That is really spectacular.
And that's where we're headed. And I think the history here is rich, but it's time, it's time for us to build on that to create the kind of prosperity and opportunities that the region generated from the 20th century into the 21st. So, and as promised, if there are, I thought this was interesting as well, that some of this language has been floating around for quite some time. And I think because of where we are at this moment in history, where we have an opportunity to be the architects of what the next economy is going to look like, to seize that collectively and position the region and the greater megalopolis as a new emergent, vibrant tech corridor. So.
Excellent. So before we get to that, let's just, again, I invite the audience to use the Q&A button for any questions that you have for Matt. Matt, can you help us understand with the council, number one, how does somebody get involved with the council, and what is the interplay between the council and the organization One Region?
That's a great question, Kelly. So the council is essentially it's a 501c6 membership organization that is it's kind of the financial support for the nonprofit that does the advocacy, that does the project work. And so the council is designed to bring the right players into the room to have the kind of sort of a salon, if you will, I guess, of thought leaders and influencers to help advance the specific priorities that have been determined to be of regional importance. And right now that's really focused on transit-oriented development around the double tracking and the Westlake corridor of the South Shore train and the advancement of the Marquette Trail Greenway that will connect Millennium Park eventually all the way into Southwest Michigan. So connectivity, placemaking, investments along that connectivity are really the two project pillars that we're seeking to bring stakeholders into support and increase the pool, the pie, whatever you want to call it, for everyone. So.
And I know that there's several, really prominent groups in Northwest Indiana, including the Forum. Is there going to be a working relationship between One Region and the
Most definitely, yeah. And the Forum has done a tremendous amount of work in the last couple of years in their the 5-year Ignite the Region regional development plan. And Heather Ennis, I can't speak highly enough of, but Heather has done just in not even 3 years, they have achieved so many metrics that we didn't anticipate would be completed until well into the 2020s. So this is a great time to be looking at Northwest Indiana as an opportunity for investment and growth. We have great partners from the Forum to the RDA to NERPC, the Regional Planning Commission, and all of our mayors. I mean, this is an exciting window of opportunity as we emerge from a tremendously difficult and traumatic period in our history, for us to work together towards building a more just and prosperous and equitable future for all of Northwest Indiana.
Well, I see that we only have about 30 seconds left, and I just want to reiterate how important it is for one region to be successful and the council to be successful and to be a part of the footprint of the work of the Alliance for Regional Development. So I'm really excited about the work that you're ginning up and will oversee. And as promised, we would not end this webinar without hearing our opera singing new executive director. So
Video evidence of my former life. So
excellent. Thank you. Up, can't hear it.
oh, let's see if we can get the
Usually with Zoom, there's a computer.
oh yeah, here we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Is that coming through at all now?
No, not yet.
No, let me turn the volume up here though.
There we go. You are certainly blessed with a beautiful voice, and thank you for sharing that. You know, especially today when we see so much on the news how Justice Scalia and Justice Ginsburg, you know, enjoyed the opera together. You know, we had the sad news that the Metropolitan Opera is canceling its season. So it's really a reminder of some incredible talent, and to have that right here in Northwest Indiana, we certainly hope that you find avenues to share that beautiful gift. And thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank
I
you.
know we've run a little bit over. I hope you found today's programming informative. As I mentioned, the Alliance for Regional Development is really looking forward to continuing and building on a strong partnership with one region. And I personally look forward to working very closely with Matt Wells. Please tune in next week for our next webinar, where we're going to be looking at downtown Chicago and speaking to the head of the Chicago Loop Alliance. Watch your emails for information to register. I will say stay well, stay strong. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Matt. I'll talk to you soon. Bye,
Thanks.
everybody. Thank you.